Hey guys, and welcome back to another Lost Bits video right here on TetraBitGaming, the series where we explore the unused, altered, and unseen content in gaming. Today we are checking out the demo release of 5 Laps at Freddy's that was released as part of the FNAF series 10th anniversary celebration week here in August of 2024. Yeah, I guess every series really does need a kart racing game. And before we jump in, a thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game out there, and it's available now for free on PC and consoles. You can immerse yourself in intense combat featuring realistic graphics and sound effects from over 2,500 incredibly detailed planes, helicopters, tanks, and ships from 10 major nations, spanning from the 1920s to the incredible battle machines of modern day. Personally, my favorites are the tanks, but I do enjoy a plane ride every once in a while too. War Thunder has game modes for every type of player, whether you want a more simplified, fast-paced match with the arcade mode, all the way to the simulator mode, which offers the ultimate authentic experience and challenge. So join a worldwide community of over 70 million players and hop into the intense PvP battles of War Thunder for absolutely free today on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox using my link in the description. And for a limited time, new players or those that haven't played in over 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack, including premium account benefits, 100,000 silver lions, and more. And with all of that said, drive into that like button below. It's time to rev up those engines and find some 5 Laps at Freddy's Lost Bits. Alright, so first let's kick things off here with a whole bunch of graphics that are left over unused in this demo. First of all, what better place to start than with the name of the game itself? Well, there's an early version of the game's logo left over unused in this demo that shows a glitched circuit subtitle that was originally planned for the game but has seemingly been dropped. 5 Laps at Freddy's glitched circuit is quite the mouthful, so I think dropping the subtitle was the right call. Then next, although all of the characters are available right off the get-go in this demo here, there are actually silhouette versions of all of their icons referring to them being in a locked state, suggesting that there may have been, or will be, plans for the player to have to unlock the characters in the full release of the game. And then similarly, there are also some unused icons for the game's carts, each with a blurred red version for being locked, and then a much clearer green version for them being unlocked, where we can better see the wireframe designs of these icons. But what's extra interesting here though is that among these icons are actually 3 carts that aren't available in the demo. A cake cruiser, a box cart that looks like it was literally just a cardboard box, and then, best for last, we have Captain Foxy's Revenge, which appears as a cool-as-hell pirate ship. Now, these aren't available in this demo, but I'd be surprised if we don't see these implemented in the final release. Then, also related to the carts, although the Midnight Motor Cart is seen in this demo, there's an alternate version of it left over in the files referred to as Midnight Motor Secret. And although it looks similar in design, this secret version is much lower in level of detail, both in terms of its associated texture, as well as the model itself. Based on the name, it seems like this may have been some sort of secret unlockable or something, but yeah, whatever the idea for this was, it just remains unused in the files for now. And while we're on the topic of the characters and carts, taking a sidebar from the graphics for a bit, there are actually various unused text strings associated with all of the characters and carts that haven't been implemented yet. The carts have a quick description. The standard cart is described as a run-of-the-mill base cart. For the cupcake cart, the description would read, "How sweet, this cart is fashioned after Mr. Cupcake. Wonder how he feels about that." And then for the Midnight Motor, talk about a killer ride. This smooth cruiser is the perfect choice for anyone wanting to flee a crime scene, win a race. Nice. And then for the characters, in addition to text that would describe which FNAF game the character was first seen in, they also have a brief description too. Freddy is the leader of the band and the face of fun. Just remember, don't run, don't yell, and most importantly, don't touch Freddy. Bonnie is the guitarist of the band and Freddy's right-hand man. This rabbit's hair-raising. Chica is a backup vocalist for the band and has a sizable appetite and is apparently a treat. Foxy is described as a swashbuckling pirate fox who's always seeking adventure. He'll do anything to turn the tide in his favor. Puppet is a mysterious marionette that's fond of giving gifts. She isn't afraid to pull a few strings in order to win. Mangle's a rowdy mess of machinery who's just happy to be here. He'd give an arm and a leg to win, or maybe more. Balloon Boy is a mischievous child who can't get enough of balloons. Don't be fooled, while he may seem innocent, he's not afraid to play unfair. And lastly, Springtrap is described as being a cold and calculated killer that loves to cheat, and someone that definitely doesn't want to be here. The character and cart selection screens are pretty bare bones in this demo build, so I'm really hoping that they add these descriptions in the final game to give them some more depth. Next, one major mechanic in this game is the night shift, which not only changes the way the course looks, but also introduces the Wolf Endo boss that will jump scare the player with the lowest battery level. Well, it looks like the Wolf Endo may get a friend in the future, as left over in the game is a currently unused icon of a bear Endo as well. And the game having more Endo types seems to make sense given how in the course selection screen, it appears to show you which Endo appears, and this wouldn't really make sense if there was just one that could appear. Next, let's shift gears for the graphics and chat about the item side of things. First off, left over in the game are several early icon graphics, including one for the cupcake, security door, the controlled shock item, as well as the phaser blaster. They all look relatively similar, but there's still a slight noticeable change in the art style between the two. They also each have some earlier placeholder graphics, but we'll get back to those later in this video. Then, in addition to those item icons of items that are seen in this demo, there are also graphics left over in the files for several items that were seemingly scrapped. These include a pizza shield item, which based on its shielding nature, was likely replaced with the broken Phas mirror. There's a party hat item that looks like a traffic cone, and it's currently unclear how exactly this would have functioned. Then next up, we have unused graphics for a power switch item, and based on these graphics also associated with it, and well, it being a power switch, it seems like the idea for this item was to turn off the lighting in a race. And very likely related to this is also an unused flashlight item. Definitely speculating here, but it seems like this item would be useful in the race if the lights were to go down. Then next, we got a Phas coin item, and I think it's quite likely that these were, or will be eventually intended to be used in the game as currency to purchase characters and carts and such, and this is only reinforced by what looks like a hidden shop section ran by Lolbit. We'll chat more about this later on as well. Next, there are also several unused graphics of the game's presents, which you drive over in the game to obtain items. First, there are 3 sets of graphics for the presents, as well as them being opened, one red and white present, one yellow, as well as a green one. Now in the current demo build, only the red presents are ever seen, so these appear to reveal that there were planned to be additional present variants the player could obtain, perhaps the other ones offering a higher chance of getting better items or something. And I reckon these graphics would have been used on the heads-up display before the item roulette would start after picking up a present during a race. And then also for the presents, there's this graphic that appears to be a different art style of the same red ribboned graphic that we just went over. And then, in addition to all of those items, there are actually a few more left over in the game that seem to have more work done for them, including finished 3D models and even some functionality. First off is a moon candy item, and after being thrown onto the track, any player that drives over it will be put to sleep and will then have to shake the control stick in order to wake up. At least, that's the idea, but it doesn't seem to be fully functional, as apparently, if you do mod this item back into the demo, shaking the control stick doesn't actually seem to do anything, and instead, the character will just regain normal control after about 3 seconds. And interestingly, despite being unused, there are also a few clips online of players getting absolutely yeeted out of bounds in the Midnight Motorist track, where the UI graphics meant for this item appear, though this seems to be a bug more than anything. Then, also for this moon candy item are 4 sound effects meant for it. One for the item being obtained, dropped, used, as well as the music box sounding effect that's supposed to play when the character is put to sleep by the candy. Then next, we have a mystery pizza item, also complete with textures, a full 3D model, as well as some leftover functionality too. For this one, a small circle will appear on screen and start to cycle through a bunch of colors for a bit before stopping on one, and whatever that color is will result in that same color of shield appearing around your character. Now, apparently, the different colors are placeholders for different pizza toppings, and presumably the different color of shields would indicate them being better or worse. Then lastly, we also have a threatening drawing item. Yeah, real threatening. This one, again, seems to work pretty similar in that it causes a shield bubble to pop up around the player, but instead, this white shield apparently would damage any players that would touch it. Anyways, with all three of these seemingly being relatively close to being finished, I'm pretty confident that we will end up seeing them added in the release version of this game. Then next, although not items themselves, there are also these blank graphics left over in the files listed as track item, next track item, as well as previous track item, found amongst the UI graphics for the level selection menu. And again, just speculating here, but this sounds like there might have been plans for special items to appear on a given track. Now next up, if you've been watching this series for a while, you'll probably know I really like seeing really basic placeholder graphics left over in a game. The more basic, the better. And thankfully, the demo of 5 Laps has got us covered here. We got various incredibly basic looking graphics of a bunch of the items that we went over previously, including the controlled shock, which also has this even earlier lightning graphic associated with it called Very Ugly Icon. Then there's one for the flashlight, the party hat, pizza shield, cupcake, the security door, as well as a question mark icon for getting an item, likely for the item roulette after grabbing a present. And in addition to all of those, there's also an early placeholder graphic for the Phaser Blaster. But not only do we have the blaster itself, but also graphics for an ammo bar, as well as ammo to refill that bar, I guess. In the current demo build, you only get one shot with the Phaser Blaster each time you pick it up, so these early graphics appear to suggest that the item was once planned to work a bit different. Perhaps being a permanent item that the character would always have and would have to reload by picking up ammo, similar to the battery and speed drop seen in the game. And thankfully, the placeholder graphics don't just end with the items, as we also have incredibly basic placeholder icon graphics for a bunch of the game's characters, including the original 4, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, Puppet, as well as Springtrap. But what's extra interesting here is that there are also placeholder icons for both Roxy as well as Circus Baby, 2 characters that aren't seen in the current demo of this game. As such, although there aren't any other assets for these characters left in the game, and they have been seemingly replaced by Balloon Boy and Mangle, it does seem like these 2 were originally at least somewhat planned to have been added to the game. And who knows, maybe we'll still see them added in the future. And while we're talking about scrapped characters, there are also references to Purple Guy in the file name for the texture of Mangle's standard cart, suggesting that this cart and texture were originally meant for Purple Guy instead, before he was apparently cut from the game. Well, at least for now. Now next up, going back to the characters, although heads-up display character icons are still seen during a race, there are several early iterations for all of the characters left over in the game too. And these early ones actually contain a lot more reactions than the currently implemented versions, where the characters basically just blink. For these early icons, in addition to blinking, there are also graphics for the characters being happy, presumably after either passing another racer or hitting them with an item, ones for them being shocked, presumably after getting hit, as well as a set for them being scared, as well as blinking while scared. It should be also noted that the last 2 are slightly darker, likely being meant for when the lights would get turned off or during the night shift sections. What's also interesting is that among these icons are also a pair for Foxy featuring an alternate design, where he looks less stylized and more like his regular design, lacking the hairdo, bigger ears and earrings, as well as the bandana seen in the other design here. Although I kinda like the art style of both these icons as well as the ones that did go on to be used, I just find it strange that they'd remove a bunch of these reactions. But I guess this is definitely something that still can get added to the new style for release, and I really hope they do. Then lastly, for the two-dimensional graphics side of things, one thing I was quickly able to notice is that despite being released mere days before the release of the demo, the trailer for this game features the battery and upgrade heads-up display icons slightly differently than how they're seen in the release version of the demo. So it looks like this trailer was made using a slightly earlier build. Now next, let's move into the third dimension and chat about some animations that are left over unused for a few of the game's characters. So although Balloon Boy, Puppet, Mangle, and Springtrap only have 2 animations of them driving as well as standing for the character select menu, the original 4 animatronics actually have some more animation data. Yeah, you can definitely tell which characters were implemented to the game first. And among their animations is one of each of them doing a jump scare, or getting jump scared. It's honestly a bit tough to tell here. And these unused jump scare animations also seem to tie into another unused item or mechanic, which would result in characters getting jump scared, as there are also unused graphics for getting jump scared, as well as a placeholder version of that same graphic featuring a spiral, which appears similar to the spiral seen in another FNAF spin-off game, FNAF World, when a character gets the jump scared status ailment. Now, it's unclear how exactly this jump scaring was going to work in 5 laps here, or if these are related to the wolf Endo, but based on these animations and graphics existing, this very well may be another thing that we'll see realized for the final release. And then lastly, for the unused animations, Freddy is an outlier with one extra unused animation that none of the other characters have. And it's one of Freddy posing triumphantly, listed as Freddy Anim Trailer. And yeah, as the name hints, this is actually the pose Freddy is seen rocking towards the end of the game's initial trailer. So if you've played or watched someone play through this demo of 5 Laps at Freddy's, you probably know that there are 3 playable tracks in this demo, but there are actually various leftovers for a 4th map that goes normally unused here, a test map. First off, found amongst the other level select graphics, there's actually an unused thumbnail for this test map referring to it as Test Zone, and here we can see a bunch of really basic level geometry and ramps and such. And in addition to this thumbnail graphic, there's also a stage intro cinematic video left over, similar to those seen with the 3 normally used tracks, where we get some brief but cool views of this test zone. And as another small aside here, there's also another unused video left over in the files, and this is of what looks to be a very early stage in development where, as you can see, basically the entirety of the heads-up display is in a placeholder state, with basically everything in a different spot compared to where it's seen in the release of the demo, as well as some of the meters not even working properly. And what's extra interesting is that we can see some early different designs for the gifts here, where they seem to have a neon wireframe design, and immediately after getting one of these, we can see 2 pizza slices that look to be boost panels or something that seem to have been dropped on the road by another player's item, and I don't believe this is something that's ever seen in the current release of the demo. And also pizza related, Puppet can be seen getting one from the item box here, so perhaps this was the scrapped pizza shield item that we went over earlier? In any case, although brief, this is still a pretty cool look into a much earlier point in this game's development. Now, the leftover video and thumbnail graphic for the test zone are nice and all, but not only do we have level data for it left over, but the test zone can be modded back in to be playable as well. Once loaded in, here we can mess around with a bunch of stuff like half pipes, ramps at different angles, as well as road twists, all of which were presumably used to test kart physics and how they'd control driving over each of them. We also got a bunch of battery charge and boost panels, the speed and battery upgrades, as well as item boxes all over the place. Here we can also find a few characters stationary and launching some attacks. And although the countdown above their heads mentions charged exotic butters for each of them, they're actually shooting out either a firecracker or phaser blast laser. Then over here, we also got these color-coded walls as well as these arrows which, as they suggest, will actually change the gravity pull on the cart in a given direction. And the same thing happens in this area, where you can actually jump the cart between the two gravitational pulls. It's honestly pretty cool, definitely getting some Super Mario Galaxy vibes. But you do have to be careful though, as one small slip up here and your character will get pulled off into the void, destined to float for all eternity. Or until you restart the game, whichever comes first. And lastly in this map, we're basically always in zeroth place. So we get to see these otherwise normally unseen heads-up display graphics for that too, which is kinda neat. Then next we have two unused models seemingly meant for another unused stage, a barrier as well as a traffic cone. But what's super cool about these is that their file name actually refers to Roxy's Raceway, and this seems to highly suggest that a Roxy's Raceway themed track may be coming to the game in the future. And this only reinforces that Roxy herself may be added as a playable character too. And honestly, yeah, turning Roxy's Raceway into a racetrack for a FNAF racing game just makes all the sense in the world. Now lastly for this video, let's zip the camera around in the three normally used racetracks as well as the main menu area and take a look at some stuff that's normally hidden away. So yeah, let's first start things off with the main menu map. Below the ground, we can first see a bunch of leftover level chunks, and this is a common theme that we'll actually see in all four maps here. Then, just behind where the camera starts as you boot into the game, there's a floating window as well as a little white block just chilling here. And then moving inside of the garage building, I teased it a bit earlier, but we can actually take the camera behind some walls and find a secret little room that appears to be a planned shop area that's to be handled by Lolbit, as we can see a cash register here, and yeah, apparently Faz coins only, as no credit cards will be accepted. And I guess calling Lolbit and this room fully unseen isn't 100% accurate, as you can actually see them for like a split second as the camera moves from the cart selection to the track selection menu. If you blink, you'll miss it, so I wouldn't blame anyone if they didn't even realize this room and Lolbit were here at all. Again, with how relatively fleshed out this is, I'd be surprised if we don't see this added as a shop area in the final game. And then lastly, for this main menu area, after having a brief look at the rooftop here that we can't normally see, we also have this section with a bunch of random objects, including some cables, a stepladder, some boxes, a desk, a toolbox, as well as this switch here. Now, it's unclear what exactly this is supposed to be, but there does seem to be some rhyme and reason to how the things are placed here. So maybe this is supposed to be another room for another menu that the devs are planning to add into the final game. I guess only time will tell. And that's basically all there is for this map. I tried zooming around behind the mountains in the background here, but there really wasn't anything back there, so moving on. Now on to the actual racetracks, we first have Fazbear Hills. Unfortunately, outside of just having a closer and inside look at the track's buildings like the pizzeria, mill, and more, there's not all too much else out of bounds aside from a bunch of rocks, spectators, and fence just chilling here in the void. There is also this section with these two walls, and these actually appear to be early versions of the brick retaining walls seen just above in the actual track. So that was pretty neat to see. And then, probably the most interesting thing found out of bounds in this track is this set of characters found just below the track near the starting line. Now these aren't just copies of characters in the race or anything, but based on them being the same, these appear to be the models that were used for the game's trailer. As there, we can see Foxy, Puppet, Balloon Boy, as well as Freddy zoom by here in the trailer. But in any case, still pretty weird to find these left over out of bounds here. Oh yeah, and this will be true across the board for all the tracks, but it's just really cool to see the map transition between the day and night shifts from different angles, especially from a zoomed out position. It just looks so magical and fascinating. Anyways, next up we move on to Midnight Motorist, and here we can once again get a closer look at some of the buildings, like JR's or Junior's, as well as this house here. Now the path to get here can be found behind this spectator stand and car, and it almost seems like there may be some sort of secret way to normally drive up here, but as of yet, nothing like this has been discovered, at least as far as I know. Not sure if there's any extra lore significance here with this building, but this building does seem to be something special, and I don't think you can ever really see this building under normal circumstances while racing on this track, at least not very well. And then, again, in addition to it being really cool to see the level transition between shifts, there's actually some hidden dev text that can be found in this map. So during the day shift, there's a suspicious path off of the main road that seems to lead to an equally suspicious little mound of dirt here. Well, if we take the camera inside of this mound, we can find a small white box. And if we go inside that, we can actually find some dev text that reads, "No secret lore here." I always love when developers hide little secrets poking fun at people that mess around with their games, and this is definitely a top tier example of that. And last up, we of course have the sinkhole, but unfortunately, aside from getting closer looks at some of the level set pieces and seeing some more chunks of the level which can be found drifting in the void under the map, I wasn't really able to find anything else hidden out of bounds. But yeah, just like with the other maps, it was just such a treat to watch the course transition between the day and night shifts from afar. Again, don't forget to check out War Thunder for free on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC with my link in the description, and new and returning players can claim all the bonus goodies, including premium vehicles and 100,000 Silver Lions. And my friends, we'll wrap it up here for the 5 laps at Freddy's demo. Of course, if there's more to go over in the full release, you can definitely expect to see me cover it here, so be sure to subscribe to the channel to find your way back here in the future. Till then though, check out some of my other Lost Bits videos, and as always, thank you all so much for zooming by today, and I will see you in a bit.